So I'm just going to go over what we're going to talk about today. I'll talk a little bit about Ascent, probably show the safe harbor. I'll talk about a customer story, and then we'll overview the new Ascent ERP 4.0 package that was released, some new features, and then we'll go over some Q&A there. So this is our safe harbor slide. We have to show this legally. There's all sorts of risks and uncertainties out there in the world, and a lot of what you might see in here today is going to be forward-looking. So again, always do your due diligence. Please don't buy based on what you see here today. Make your purchasing decisions based on features that are currently available. So a little about me. I'm from Atlanta. I went to school here at Georgia Tech. I'm still based here. You could probably call me somewhat of a townie. I have tons of experience with Salesforce. I started out as a developer, and then I was a customer of Salesforce. I was a customer of Ascent ERP. Then I became a consultant for Ascent ERP, and then an ISV partner, and now I'm an executive. So I'm somewhat of an ERP guy. I'm constantly learning. I'm evangelizing it. I tell people about what ERP is. I love just describing the three letters to people who don't know what that is. I have certifications in the developer path, in the architect path, and in the Salesforce industry clouds. I guess a fun fact about me, I'm definitely not the best athlete at Ascent. There's actually some pro athletes that work at Ascent, but I'm somewhat of a weekend warrior, and I play flag football on the weekends, regardless of kind of my advanced age in the competition there. Anyway, last weekend, I actually broke my finger playing. And I'm trying to keep playing the rest of the game. So I have this kind of state-of-the-art cast thing going on. It's like a second bone, second skin thing. And so, yeah, I'm hoping to be able to play the rest of the games this season, but if not, that's okay. Let's talk a little bit about Ascent, right? So our vision is to be the most extensible, flexible, scalable inventory and order management solution on the Salesforce App Exchange. So I'll stop there and say, we aim to really provide like tools around that vision to make companies more efficient, giving them the ability to serve their customers better and faster, and providing, the needed visibility and control to do just that. And so by the end of this presentation, this should make a lot more sense if you've never heard this before. And if you're interested in more details about this, there's another webinar, a sister webinar with a deep, more technical dive on the topics that you see today. So a little bit of a history about Ascent, if you didn't know. We were founded in 2006 by our CEO, Mike Trent, and our president, Sean McInerney. It's likely some of you have already talked to one of them. And these two guys come from very different backgrounds. One is deep in the manufacturing space, fourth generation manufacturing CEO. And the other is all about warehouse management and device management. And so coming together, the key here for these two was the timing that they met, right? So that was the same year that the Salesforce App Exchange opened up to ISV partners. So we're partnered with Salesforce. So this was a great opportunity. And our whole strategy from day one was to build native apps that were specifically designed for Salesforce. And so all of our competitors say that they build native apps for Salesforce. And what I'm talking about is inventory, manufacturing, and order management competitors. But in practice, they really didn't. And what I mean is whether it's porting over an old software from an old solution that was developed in another era for a different technology stack, different use case, or simply just going off platform with your data to process it on their servers, none of them are truly designed as native apps from keystroke number one. And so being one of the first vendors that were approved on the Salesforce platform, there's really no other company with more Salesforce pedigree in this inventory management, order management space as Ascent. And so to make this, this transformation, like in our journey, crystal clear how far we've come, the first thing that we created when we were an approved vendor in the Salesforce platform was one page called the Item Master. And so as simple as that sounds, as our first release in 0.1, this was truly groundbreaking to have your items and their quantities right next to your accounts, your contacts, and your opportunities. And this was before anything came up about products and price books with Salesforce for orders and many other things that you're used to today. In the Salesforce platform, we were building our app around the item. And so we've always kind of listened to our customers. And over the years, that single item page, which I started to talk about, evolved into this, suite of native applications to support world-class inventory and order management. And this led to this end-to-end ERP on the Salesforce platform. So what do I mean by end-to-end ERP? Well, here's some examples of the things that we do on Salesforce. And so you can kind of buy these things and purchase them and implement them, as standalone and then some of them all together. And, all of them are available on the App Exchange. And one of the cool things that we built here is the flexibility of choosing what you want to use. So you can choose to have one person in your organization doing all of these things in one Salesforce org without ever leaving the page, or, tighten it up and give them only access to certain things and only access to certain apps to be productive. And so I want to talk about what we normally see when customers come to us. So typically a customer has selected Salesforce, and that's great. We think that's great. We always, are okay with when a customer has already selected Salesforce. If they haven't selected Salesforce, we can be an OEM of that as well. So if you're looking at us and Salesforce, we're able to help you with that and help you make the right decisions. So what else is really going on with our customers? So when they come to us, they typically have like a whole bunch of different systems. They might have QuickBooks, they might have spreadsheets. Maybe they have like a homegrown legacy system built by their own internal developers or by a consultant that they don't talk to anymore. Or maybe they have a mainframe system for that matter. Or, we have seen a paper-based ticketing company and all of these things, somewhere in between, but oftentimes it's, a mix of disjointed systems and kind of nothing is really standardized and everything's sort of siloed. And businesses sort of get dysfunctional around where their system to system touch points and where the handoffs are. And it doesn't matter whether it's, a family run business where everyone trusts everyone else, or, you're a bustling mid-market solution trying to go up market. In the end, silos dig in around their systems. And, you might not be able to get the insights that you need to know what to fix or even what to emphasize to gain more revenue. Or, what's worse and honestly more common is that, and we see this a lot, is that what you need to do, but you simply can't do that because, your systems don't support the changes that you need to make or the improvements or the emphasis where you need to make it. And so what we want to talk about today is Operations 360. This is what we've delivered with the Ascent 4.0 platform. And so we talk about Salesforce and Ascent. So Salesforce is Customer 360. They're all about the customer and their experience and what they're going through and how does Salesforce help you touch that customer. And Ascent, we're all about Operations 360. We're all about the life of the physical product or the unique service that you're providing. And so it's all about making sure that the system that we provide to you helps you do that better. And so there's like an obvious disconnect here, whether you have chosen to go with Ascent yet, or you are implementing it, or you're just just evaluating it for the first time. The disconnect is the lack of visibility between the connection between the customer 360, the customer's experience, and the product or services experience and its life cycle. And so with the tools that we provide, which I showed before, with inventory, order management, reverse logistics, you got manufacturing, rentals, and WMS, warehouse management. Ascent acts as that single source of truth for the critical operational data, and it's inside of Salesforce right next to your customers. So now you have this like consistent experience, no matter who is using the system. With this gives you an easier adoption across departments. You got better visibility, and this leads to the identification of new and repeat revenue and service opportunities, even to make that much easier. And so what we've seen is once companies kind of harness and make this Operations 360 their own, this type of feedback loop can come from pretty much anywhere in your organization. And the key here in this slide, the key here is that everything is connected and centralized. Yes, there's different personas, whether you be in sales or operations or accounting or in the warehouse. There's different personas using the system, but we have everyone looking at the same data. We don't have to replicate information in different places. We're not worried about how long that might take. It's immediate. And so there's no longer this need for a push and a pull of information from different departments from day to day. And the biggest example of this can be salespeople seeing real-time inventory data. Now, some of folks on the call may have just choked on their coffee. Salespeople seeing real-time inventory data, I don't want that. Well, others might be maybe jumping up and down at their desk, asking questions in the chat. And so it's important to recognize that we didn't reinvent the wheel here. Operations 360 is built on the Salesforce platform. It's configurable just like Salesforce. All the tools and things that you know about Salesforce you can use with our tool. So if you don't want your sales team seeing real-time numbers, you can do that. But if you do, that's something you can do. And it's the same thing from the operations side. Maybe we need the operations people to see the sales numbers immediately so they can make a quick decision so that they're ready for when the sale actually gets made. And so the world of changing functionality where your ERP is going to take months or even years, that's over. All this stuff is at your fingertips. And instead of this like push and pull thing that, we're seeing, that when people really do understand the real-time nature of these things, that they can really harness this Operation 360, different departments besides sales are kicking off, a life cycle of revenue around the horn here. So it may be that the warehouse people are seeing something. And so this is truly generating revenue that can create better end-to-end customer experiences. And so this is empowering different teams as well. When the ownership gets there and the adoption is there, the flexibility is really realized. And tweaking the way things look or behave, if you're familiar with Salesforce, how you can drag and drop and you can click to code and you can have real-time reports and all these type of things. They're not just for sales and accounting organizations. They're really for the whole business. And so when the whole business gets access to this, it really creates something powerful. And so I want to talk about a customer. So in this case, I want to talk about our customers and I want to talk about a specific customer. So our customers are, we've been around since 2006, so it's not like we just jumped into the enterprise right then. We have customers that are big and we have customers that are small. We have enterprises. We have, several companies that are still mom and pops. And so the key here is, you have like these highly sophisticated manufacturing organizations using Ascent with Operations 360. And others are just doing things like, servicing car parts and, going out and handling HVAC issues. These are the type of things where, every single customer, regardless of what they're doing when they're using Ascent, can use either a subset of these tools or they can use all of them. And nothing's stopping you from using Salesforce tools that are already out there, and tools off platform with Ascent. And so we wanted to show a unique customer example here where they have like several Salesforce products, right? So they were already using some Salesforce tools. They were using, I think, Sales Cloud and Service Cloud. And, they had a manufacturing organization that they wanted to bring up into the Salesforce platform. And so this is an example of how you can use Salesforce products and Ascent products to create like this whole organization experience. So as you can see, Mobile Ion is like a medical device company, and they have several complex use cases, and they have FDA implications, and they're using this CPQ with Salesforce for a really heavy sales focused organization where they also have heavy manufacturing in the back end. So not only is making the sale important, but having the Ascent item and inventory and bill of materials and all the fancy revisions and versions, things that we can do with manufacturing all in one place was really powerful to them. And then once they really got a hold of that stuff, they came back for more, and they use our Final for journaling, invoicing, AR, procurement, and finally they use our tax solution. So you can see in this tax solution actually connects with an industry-leading tax tool called Avatax. So we kind of pick our battles. We know where it makes sense for us to dig in and build new functions to support Operations 360, where when there's a best of breed out there, like this Avatax solution, we bring that information into the Salesforce platform, so you're not having to jump in and out of Salesforce to do your day-to-day job. And so, this was a pretty involved digital transformation, going from, homegrown systems to all Salesforce. And we couldn't have done it without our certified partners, which I haven't mentioned. In this case, it was Atheon, but in every case, like our product is being implemented. So the tools and services that I've talked about today are actually being implemented by a certified partner group. So some of them may be on the call, or there may be prospective partners on the call. And so you can certainly ask questions about how that happens, and we can touch on that later. Okay, so now getting into Ascent ERP 4.0. This is kind of what everybody is here probably to hear about. And so now that we've done kind of some housekeeping, I wanted to tell you what I'm going to tell you about. So, and if I don't talk enough about it for you today, and you want to know more, I'm going to tease the deep dive sister webinar for this webinar, which will go into greater detail on all of these topics. So there's been many things that we've done in Ascent 4.0. It's the culmination of many years of work. And there's so much under the hood that I'm going to talk about in the future. And I invite you guys to come listen to that. But for today, we're going to touch on the high points. So I'm going to talk about RMAs with cases and returns. What does that mean? It's really just about reverse logistics and the different ways that you can use it with Ascent. I'm going to talk about quotes and our improvements with quotes. I'm going to talk about work orders, which is a new area for us. Instead of just tracking the inventory life cycle, what's happened with the inventory over time, we're actually talking about what is a person doing, and what things did they do, and what inventory did they use to do that, and also how much time they've charged. Also, I'm going to talk about something a little bit complicated. It's an allocation model, the difference between soft allocation of inventory and hard allocation of inventory, and I'll try not to get too technical. And then I'm going to talk about APIs and what that means for the connected system, and finally about multidimensional taxes. So first, I'm going to talk about reverse logistics. So that means typically when you talk about inventory, you're talking about building it, buying it from somewhere, having it come in, and then selling it, and then fulfilling it to the final customer. Well, when, reverse logistics isn't always a negative thing, but if you can think about it like this, it's stuff returning back to you. And in the very beginning, when we first built Ascent and we were, proposed the idea of building the reverse logistics thing, we thought, well, it makes a lot of sense to build this inside of Service Cloud. So anyone who had cases or entitlements in service, it would make a lot of sense to have the return of inventory being built right there. And over time, what we found out was that not everyone wants to use Service Cloud for their reverse logistics. In fact, some companies don't use Service Cloud at all, but still want to handle returns. And so what we did was we built a new page and a new data model that supports doing returns standalone. And it was important to make sure that all the customers that were using Service Cloud still got to get all the great things of our standalone returns. So not only can you use those returns like standalone, but you can also use them at the same time inside of Service Cloud. So you kind of have this like flexibility of doing it exactly how your business wants. And so you might have a use case where you do it standalone, you just want to return something into the business. You might have another one where you need to communicate with a customer, and have a lot of back and forth, and you need to see that inventory and that return and that status right there in your Service Cloud. So there's a lot going on with the Service Cloud case, and there's more and more being added every day, and we aim to be kind of like inside of that for the customers that want it, and allow rigidity the way that Salesforce promotes it, while also having the ability to intermingle it with the rest of your operations. And so this flexibility that we've realized here is our answer to the need for reverse logistics to be that way. And what we've seen is that customers started using the standalone returns in really interesting ways, and potentially, again, to kick off a new sales cycle. And so, and it also allows you to have a way to integrate with external systems without having to integrate with Service Cloud. And so what I'm doing, I'm just showing you guys kind of what it looks like. So you kind of have this header area where you have all the information about what's happening with the return, and it can be connected to a work order or a case, or you can submit for approval. So it's truly built inside the Salesforce platform. And then you have at the bottom here, you have, here are the things that are being returned. Here are the things that are being replaced, and the serial numbers and things like that. So you kind of get a full detail of the reverse logistics lifecycle. So next thing I want to talk about is quotes. So one thing that's interesting is that, a lot of customers come to us, like even the customer example that I gave, they already have Salesforce CPQ, and that's totally fine. But if they don't have the configure price quote tool with Salesforce, a lot of customers don't know that Ascent has their own quoting engine. And so, this tool is something where, just like the Salesforce quote, it hangs off the opportunity and it connects with the order. And so when you use the Ascent Salesforce or Ascent quoting tool, what you're getting is you're getting all the great stuff that comes with trade agreements and pricing matrix and things like that Ascent is really great at, but it also contains configuration functionality. So there's several improvements that we've made, so you can group items, you can have some guided selling, there's some rules that you can do. And so this is something that can't be done in really one webinar. And so it's something where I'm going to, ask you guys to contact sales if you're interested in that. It's a tool. If you're already an Ascent customer, it's a tool that you already have. So you're not going to need to pay more to get that tool in your org. If you're not an Ascent customer and you're looking at different quoting tools, don't forget to look at us. And so today I really wanted to talk more about quote syncing. So what is quote syncing? So if you're familiar with some of the third-party quoting tools out there, or you're just familiar with the standard Salesforce opportunity quote order process, you might be familiar with there's a syncing option where you can sync the details. So you might be on the phone with the customer, and you're editing the quote, but the opportunity is not updating. And so you might be done with the customer might have accepted the quote, and then the opportunity value is not updated yet. And so what we've done is we've given you the ability to just do that work in one place. And so you can edit the quote and stay on the quote as a salesperson, hit the sync button, and it'll sync with all the trade agreements and all the pricing matrix, and everything that you agreed to with the customer on the quote is synced back to the opportunity. And the great part about this is that once you've decided to turn the quote into an order, we'll go ahead and close the opportunity for you and clean up any inconsistencies between the opportunity and the agreed upon quote, and then create the order. So you have 3 areas that are all perfectly in sync, and you're not having to have your sales team trying to manage the differences between these. And so you get kind of a consistency. And again, this is the same thing with the consistent, seamless experience. We're trying to create as little time as you can to spend in the system, but get as much of it as you can out of it. The next thing I was going to talk about is work orders. So work orders is all about tracking the work that is happening. So it's different than inventory ins and outs, And so what we're doing is we're tracking people. And so the people are actually doing something in real life, and then they need to reflect that in the system. And we give an enormous amount of flexibility about what they want to do. And this can be used for, service to drive revenue, or it can just be to track your costs internally. So whether you're doing something like a delivery on a sales order and you want to track, well, when did the delivery driver actually get there? Which things did he unload from the truck? And maybe he didn't deliver some of them. How long did it take him to set it up? Things like that. Also, you have the idea of, well, something's coming into our warehouse and on a purchase order or on a manufacturing work order, and we need to have someone inspect the actual inventory that's there, and we need to track that inspection, and we need them to do, here's a list of steps that you have to do for everything. And so the work order it gives you the ability to do that as well. We also have a built-in concept of repairing. So earlier I talked about reverse logistics and how do we bring inventory back from a customer into our world. And when it comes back, oftentimes, in a great scenario, it's perfect and nothing's changed and it wasn't even opened. In a worst case scenario, it was opened and trashed. And so there's this concept of, well, maybe we need to repair this because it was from a customer that we need to send a brand new one, or we want to send them back the exact same one that they sent us, just repaired. And so you can have a list of steps that allows you to repair it. And you can also ad hoc add a step. So a lot of times these people who are doing repairs in the depot are sort of tribal knowledge folks, and you don't want to weigh them down with any checklist. You just want to let them tell you what they did and how long it took. And so that's also an option as well. And then, the final built-in scenario is picking. So what is picking? So when you have an order and it's ready to go out, you want to create a picking list. You actually want to ask the user to say, I have picked this particular item from this location, and then close it out so that you know what he did and you can get like a record in the system of his work. And the final thing I'll mention is that probably the most powerful of all these things is none of the ones that I've mentioned, and it is the one that is in your mind for your business. And so what I'm talking about is you can have a custom work order process that is specifically designed for your business. And so I'm going to show what a work order looks like on the screen. It's a very simple view of it. There are many more things that can go on with it, but what I wanted to mention here is that, you have the header level of what am I doing right now? What am I related to? And at the most basic level, we're talking about a header and the line items. What are the items that I'm working on? Am I painting something? Am I charging a rate for it? What is the inventory being used? How many hours did it take? And what was the cost of those things can all be detailed here. And so you have like a type and you have a subtype, and this subtype and type is yours to change. So we don't force you to use the system the way it was designed in those scenarios that I discussed before. What we're asking you to do is think about how it could work for you. And so that's, I think, the beauty of the work order is that it's simply anything that's tracking any process within your business that has to do with a person. So next, I want to talk about the last few things that I mentioned before about new features. So I want to talk about allocation model, and this is kind of a jargon, industry inventory jargon thing. But essentially there's soft allocation of inventory and then there's hard allocation of inventory. Soft allocation is, for the longest time, the way Ascent was always designed. It's a soft allocation perpetual inventory tool. That describes exactly what Ascent does. But what we wanted to do is we wanted to offer some new options for customers who either wanted to mix and match the soft allocation perpetual inventory tool with a hard allocation or a put on hold type of inventory. And so this is a scenario where you can say some of this inventory, whether it's soft allocation or not, will now be allocated specifically to a specific customer order. And that includes the concept of back ordering. So you may say, this item is moving very fast. I don't want to oversell on my website, so I want to hard allocate this item. And what that does is it basically says the inventory is gone the moment that someone's created an order for it. And that's important because what you can do is you can actually have this back ordering concept, and that back order, you can expose it to your customers and let them know, hey, by the way, maybe you did a pre-order or something like that. Your back order will be ready on this date. And you can actually use that information with the hard allocation model to go out there and make purchasing decisions or manufacturing decisions or other operational decisions. And so previously, when we just said, here's how much you can promise to your customers with soft allocation, and that sort of dynamic nature was something that people liked, we also want to give this more like, a static way of handling your inventory where you can feel more comfortable about not, overselling. And so what we wanted to do in Ascent 4.0 is that we wanted to extend this to other areas because we think this type of inventory style is actually quite useful everywhere. And so what we did was we actually added it to the manufacturing part of Ascent, where when you're going into a production manufacturing work order, you can actually hard allocate the inventory on that work order to that specific work order so that it can't be used elsewhere. And this creates, for some people on the call may understand this or may know this concept of work in process, or work in progress. So what you can do is you can basically start a manufacturing of something, use some inventory in real life to build something, and make sure that it doesn't, show as still available over here for somebody to buy. And so this is a very complex concept, and I don't want to go too far into it, but the idea is that you can mix and match these things together. You can be an all hard allocation company, or you can be all soft allocation company, or somewhere in between. And so for more information on this, contact sales. Also, I'll be going over this again in the technical deep dive call, a little bit more deeper than what we talk about today. Next, I'll talk about REST APIs. What are REST APIs? So APIs are a way for you to integrate with external systems or internal systems inside of Salesforce. And what we've done is we built an API around everything in Ascent. And so if you think about this, it basically means any external system that you need to integrate with Ascent, we're ready for that. So you can think things like 3PLs, e-commerce, financials, payments, things like this. So again, like, we understand there are companies out there that might do one specific thing really well, and we don't want to be a closed system. We want to be an open system. And so developing and releasing these REST APIs for pretty much everything is showing you guys that, hey, look, we understand, and we want to be the center, the hub of a many spoke system. And so we know that we can't be everything for everyone. So we know that you might want to keep your old systems for a little while or forever. And so that's why we did this. And finally, it's not really that sexy, but we really did bear down and spent a lot of energy on building our tax solution. So we have tax codes, we have tax rates. It works on the opportunity, the quote, the sales order, the invoice, the credit memo, the purchase order, the vendor invoice. It works everywhere. And so what we're doing is what we've built is a solution that's kind of a catch-all for all types of tax. And so tomorrow in that webinar, on the deep dive, we'll go with a colleague of mine. We'll go very deep into this feature. And the key takeaway here is that we can support pretty much any kind of tax that we've seen. Most international taxes, no problem. Most flavors of taxes, really, anyway, is going to work with it. And certainly any US-based tax rules will work. So I'll stop blabbing here, and without further ado, I'll present you with the last slide. You want to learn more about us if you're a partner, and you need to know more, or you are a prospective partner, please contact Tom. He's our VP of Customer Success and also a Partner Success. And he has kind of a funny name. So to make it easier, if you'd rather just email help@Ascent ERP if you're a partner and you have questions, you can do it there. If you're a customer, same thing, help@Ascent ERP. If you're a prospective customer or someone who just wants to learn more, you can visit us at the App Exchange, where I talked about all those native apps that we've built, or you can go to our Contact Us page that is listed here.